Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from DBpsychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. So this week I'm going to talk about self-care in that learning to love yourself. That was the topic of this week's blog. So why would we need to learn to love ourselves again? For many reasons. Sometimes we're raised in a home that we are not taught the basics of self-care. We're not taught, in fact, how to love ourselves. And in saying that, I'm not trying to push anything on your parents. I'm not trying to, blame them in any way. They were probably taught by their parents exactly the same thing. And in that sense, it's something that is replicated down the generations. Other reasons we stop loving ourselves, or we start not loving ourselves, is as adults, for a variety of reasons. Maybe we go into a codependent relationship with some form of addict. We develop disorder or a mental health disorder, which means we can take a knock on how we feel. And maybe trauma, maybe it was rape, maybe it was sexual abuse as children. There be a wide variety of reasons why we develop unhealthy boundaries and an inability really to love ourselves. So in saying all that, in learning to love ourselves again, we can help also to boost our self-confidence. We can, as I said, we can help ourselves set healthy boundaries with ourselves and with others. We can also start to recognize, what we want, what we need, what is right and what is wrong for us as individuals, and we can certainly trust ourselves. So I did talk about trust last week, and so learning to love yourself is part of learning to trust yourself again. Now, in saying all that, the blog this week is very lengthy. I have to give you a warning on that. So check it out at www.DBpsychologyservices.com. I do start off by listing out 9 questions. And I feel that, if you wanted to start somewhere, you could start by answering those questions. Now, I do have a more detailed list of questions that I've highlighted before, and that's to do with journaling. I have them listed under, if you go looking for the journaling blog, you'll find there's a list of about 32 questions up there, and they're a bit more detailed. But these 9 questions would be one way to get you started on finding out where you are in your life right now, to do a mini life review, and to get you learning to love yourself again. So how would you use those? Well, they would be part of a strategy that you would use, and the strategy would, and I have listed that out after those questions. The strategy would include basic self-care. If you do not have basic self-care, go look at the blog. You must have basic self-care. And that's when I say basic self-care, I'm talking about, having a shower, changing your clothes, getting out of bed, washing your teeth, basically looking after yourself, but then also basically looking after your, nutritional needs, exercising, meditation, journaling, and gratitude would be all what I say is basic self-care. So have a look at that. I do have a blog on that, and you can see what you need for that basic self-care. So when you have that basic self-care in place, that is your foundation of, as I always say, the house called you. And from there, then we build out our strategy. Journaling, gratitude, and meditation would be part of that. This would also help build up your self-confidence, because if you're looking after yourself, it's going to have a knock-on effect on, how you feel about yourself. It's going to help you build trust back up in yourself. And I talked about trust last week. It also gets you to recognize the mind, body, and spirit connection that we all have. A lot of times when people don't have good boundaries, when they've been traumatized in any way, or they've had a mental health issue, or any reason at all, we can start to live from, basically from our neck up, and our mind, if you like, disconnects from our body, and the feelings and emotions that are felt in the body can be disconnected. So this will help you reconnect with that, and reconnect, and see what you need in your life right now. So that's the whole thing about reconnecting with yourself. If you are somebody who isn't loving yourself, then your boundaries are going to be skewed, but also your priorities are going to be skewed. So I always recommend to review your priorities. So do have a look at that. There's a free resource out on my resource pages to get, to help you do an exercise in resetting your priorities. You're more likely to be very unhappy, and this is where I said about the 9 questions at the start. The 9 questions at the start, as I said, will give you an idea of how to do a mini life review. I would then use that. If you are very unhappy with with all of your life, I would just pick one area. I would pick one area and focus on it. Pick the area that's perhaps the most nagging for you, or where you feel a sense of urgency to change, or if you want to build up your self-confidence a little bit, because I said, your self-confidence is going to have gone, that you perhaps pick maybe a small change, and then that'll give you a win, and then you take another small change and that'll give you another win. So do it in very small increments, and that'll give you, it'll build your self-confidence, it'll build up your trust in yourself, and basically you are building. And of course, any small change you make is going to have a knock-on effect to the rest of it. So you should feel a bit more happier within your life. Also with people that have, that they don't love themselves, you will find that you have inner blocks, I call them, in this case. In other words, negative thinking, negative ways of viewing the world, a negative attitude. So these need to change. So how can you change them? And I've talked about it before. We need to be doing affirmations. We need to be using our meditation. We need to be able to stop and think and actually notice and become aware. Again, as I said, the mind, body and spirit connection, and reconnecting the mind with the body, even doing that part of becoming aware, using the mindfulness or any form of meditation to reconnect. Where in my body am I feeling this? And I spoke about this last week. Where in my body am I feeling this? Therefore, you can start to recognize how you're thinking. Is this somebody else's, thoughts? Are they something you were taught as a child? So therefore, you can start to counteract them. These are just thoughts that were put in there. They are, they are habits you were given, things that you do that'll be, negative to you and keep you locked in a negative mindset. And they can all be changed. Remember, everything can be changed. You didn't come into the world like this. This was something you probably built up over many years, more likely from childhood. And this can all be changed. Everything can be changed. And in saying that, now is the time to do it. If you're watching this, you probably have, and I talked about the stages of change. More likely than not, you have become aware. You're at that awareness stage. Something needs to change, and maybe this is what you need to do. So now is the time to do it. Now is the time to make a commitment, and I talk about doing that. I talk in the blog about making a commitment, and I have actually a phrase written out, and you can copy it and paste it out, and then sign it and date it. That's what I say to you: sign and date it. To make that commitment from this day forward to yourself, to loving yourself, to nurturing yourself, and also to forgive yourself. A lot of the time when we have things from the past, we get caught up in I don't want to forgive the other person. Let go with that for the moment. Let go of the other person, because underneath that, you will find you do not forgive yourself. Particularly if you have any shame or guilt, you will definitely not forgive you will not have forgiven yourself for whatever it was in the past. Now is the time to do that. Just work on forgiving yourself. And I link out to a blog on forgiving yourself and what the difference is between forgiveness, which is forgiving yourself, and reconciliation, which is, forgiving somebody else and not necessarily, reconciling with them because they could be dead or you don't want them back in your life, but maybe forgiving them and letting them go. But as I said, park that for the moment. When you want to just start off from the very beginning, I would concentrate on forgiving myself. I would let the other person, and whether or not you're going to forgive them, I would park that to one side for the moment. As I said, if you're building this up, and it's a strategy. If you look at the strategy on the blog, you're building it up in increments. So you're working on your inner blocks and that. But at the same time, you can also be setting your goals and your dreams for the future. It's about, as I said, reviewing your priorities, and it's about becoming more aware of you and developing a positive attitude. So in doing, deleting the negative, we have to fill the void. As I've said before, we fill the void with putting in a positive. So the positive stuff would be becoming more aware of what you read, what you hear, and what you see. So becoming a bit more discerning about what it is you are accepting into your life. And what you will tolerate and who you will tolerate. So again, of course, we talk about deleting negative people. Now, the last part of the blog, I just did a very quick summary of ways that you can introduce positive, loving self-care acts. So if you wanted to just skip it all and just roll down to the end of the blog, as I said, it is a long blog this week, so if you want to just skip it all, just go right down to the end. There is a list 3, divided into 3. Even if you started there, even if you just pick one of those and introduce one a week, or introduce one from each section a week, that will, of course, have a knock-on effect. So check those out. They're positive self-loving acts, and they're at the very end. Have a look at them they're at www.DBpsychology services. So I'm going to say good morning and leave it at that. Now, there will be no Facebook Live on a Wednesday anymore. They will be happening on a Saturday morning instead. So there will not be any Facebook Live next Wednesday. In fact, it will be Saturday week before I come back to you. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to say hi to Deirdre and hi hello lads and Greystones, and everybody else that's watching this morning. Hello to you all, and thank you very much as always, Deirdre, for tuning in. And I will see you all Saturday week. And check out next week's blog. It will be out on Monday morning as usual. Goodbye.